Shall we talk about Kirby Air Riders? Maybe we should talk about Kirby Right Back At Ya TV show, if you remember it. Pretty cool. If not, that's okay. Kirby Air Riders is out in a few weeks, and the test demo, I played a bunch of it today. And I'm going to give you my impressions, my thoughts, and my sort of look ahead to where this game fits in to Nintendo Switch 2's calendar. This is a Switch 2 exclusive. This is a Sakurai joint, and this is a surprise game that is pleasing plenty of people across the globe, especially those who remember Kirby's Air Ride back on GameCube, and those who are just ready for another racer not named Mario Kart. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Hit that like button if you enjoy Nintendo Switch and Switch 2 discussions like this one. Kirby, man. I'm going to start off with the presentation that I think is just pristine. All right, it clearly borrows from Super Smash Bros., and that to me is just literally music to my ears. I think the soundtrack is choice. I think all of the UI is awesome. The sound effects themselves and the announcer, great. It makes me feel like I'm playing a Sakurai game, and I think that's really special. I think the fact that he has like a trademark style that carries across genre and title and character, pretty freaking neat. I like that a lot, and I can't really think of many other game devs outside of like Kojima who really have like such a style that you're like, oh, that's that dude's game. And I love that they allowed them to borrow the UI of Smash Bros. Basically, and sort of the aesthetics of race starts, race finishes, fight starts, fight finishes, and make it all magically work together. First, I played through all the tutorials because the game was not online. It's only online for set hours, but don't worry, I did a bunch of that as well. I gotta say, the races are really fun. I think coming from Mario Kart World, and of course Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it's a totally different kind of racer. Remember, this is a one-button racer. At least that's what they kind of call it. You're going forward automatically, right? You actually do have multiple buttons and inputs that you're using, but it is basic in that sense. You always go forward. B is your boost/drift button. You can waggle the stick to spin, and then you can eventually shoot out abilities once you copy somebody up. You can also suck them up, but the races, they're really interesting. It's a very different type of race than what I'm used to with Mario Kart, and it definitely tickles a different part of my brain. The courses are gorgeous. It's pretty intense, even against CPU, because in this test demo, the races are offline only, and the city trial is the online component. I really enjoyed the races. You know, the courses and the characters and the cars all really make a difference. The different vehicles control very differently. It affects your boosting and your drifting tremendously, and kind of getting a hang of your character with their different stats and then pairing them with a vehicle that works in synchronous harmony is going to be one of the keys of the game, and then obviously executing when you boost, when you don't. It's kind of a weird spot, I think, for this game, because on one hand, it's definitely trying to appeal to a younger audience. I mean, Kirby has always been a younger geared audience toward game. And then it's also trying to be simple with like, hey, your car just goes forward. But the nuance here is that you are having to use these boosts very specifically, and it does bring a whole lot of geometric angles into the equation as you try to line up your turns, your shots, and your moves around the track to be first to finish. So there is a level of depth there on top of the simplicity in which I think this game could be enjoyed race-wise by a wide audience. And I think that's Nintendo's sort of bread and butter, is like, hey, come for the characters and the bright visuals and the cool graphics and now like great frame rate and great resolution, and then stay for some layered mechanics and some fun gameplay that we've already and always known Nintendo to do. They have online components here, so that adds longevity. They have a bunch of courses, and this demo, of course, did not have everything that the game will have, because there is sort of the top-down slot car mode. There's all sorts of extras, and who knows, there might even be a few other hidden features in there, as well as a bunch of collectibles. So as a racer, I found this fun, and I was like, dang, maybe Kirby Air Riders actually is for me. Maybe this is a game that I can really get into and be another Switch 2 title that I want to get in the month of November before Metroid Prime 4 comes out in December, and we just had Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, so a lot going on. Then I moved to City Trial, and forgive me, maybe I just suck, maybe it's just not the game for me, but I felt like City Trial was a humongous cluster mess that ends in the most random fashion. All right, I didn't really feel like I had a ton of control over City Trial, and it's hectic and it's chaotic, and it's just really not my style. I feel like there is a clunkiness to City Trial that isn't good. It's not like, oh, you need to just get better. Oh, you need to just figure it out. It's like, it doesn't really feel to me, my own opinion, right? Not the right answer, just the opinion, that these controls and this gameplay was meant for this kind of mode. It's a lot of like smashing into stuff, just going in circles, collecting a bunch of random icons to power up your vehicle. No sense of where you're actually at with those power-ups. And you see other players, you can bump into other players. Sometimes there's events around the world. Occasionally you'll be near enough to interact with them. Oftentimes you won't be. And then it catalogs up all the power-ups you've acquired, says where you're at vehicle-wise, and then presents you with 4 stadiums to pick from, recommending you in one of 4 categories. There's things like races, there's things like arena where you're fighting to see who survives the longest, there's co-op defeating a big mecha King DDD, there's shooting at different points, like a grid of points. I didn't really find any of those great, and in fact I found most of them to be very separated, and by that I mean like, oh, I'm getting blown out in the race, oh, I'm blowing these people out in terms of how much damage I'm dealing to mecha King DDD. Because everyone can kind of pick the stadium that they feel best suits their vehicle or that they just want to compete in, there's 4 people per stadium, and they feel kind of non-competitive, in my opinion. I felt like a lot of it was just the randomness of like, crap, everybody that picked the race really focused on speed, or rather, what I'd say, they got a bunch of speed power-ups. I don't know how much you can actually focus in the city trial main mode where you are perusing the city for power-ups, because it is a bit clunky. You're crashing into things, crashing into characters, trying to break boxes and getting the random luck of what power-ups are in front of you. It's very hectic and chaotic, and I see why some people could enjoy it. But to me, I feel like the design here is, hey, let's be crazy and chaotic because this is fun for, in particular, younger players and nostalgic players from Kirby Air Ride. And to me, it just feels like, okay, like, really the mechanics don't really go together in that serendipitous way that Nintendo mechanics really go together. I can get there with the races. I can see how they put the pieces together to make the races entertaining, interesting, and a totally different take on races, but a bunch of people have told me that City Trial is the focal point. It's what people love about Kirby Air Ride. It's what they're looking forward to about Kirby Air Riders. I found that mode to be like kind of the worst parts of Mario Party. And again, forgive me. Maybe I'm just terrible. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe it's just not for me. But it felt like the mini games where you don't have a ton of control. It felt like the mini games where you're crashing a lot and running into other characters, bashing into walls. And it's sort of like, oh, I ended up picking the snake and he was faster than the chalupa and he was faster than the gazelle. And that's how the race ended. It felt like it was very random and that I didn't have a whole ton of control over what was exactly going on. And the stadium selection at the end, while providing flexibility, and that in theory is a fun idea, to me it just made it feel all meaningless, and then it's over. 5 minutes of city trial, moving around the city, a minute of this stadium, and then it's over. And there really is not, in my opinion, a great conclusion. There isn't like a denouement or this big climactic moment. It just sort of is over. The climax seems to be within the city trial, and the stadium feels like the letdown to me, and much more of like a, I don't know, someone's gonna be first place, but it doesn't really matter who's first place because you're not even competing against all 16. You're just competing against a random 3, and those 3 might not have even focused on what you focused on or tried to focus on. Your vehicles could be totally mismatched. It might even be a co-op thing where there's no winner. I don't know. I found this to be not very enjoyable and not something that I want to put my time and money and effort into. This is a big game. This is a full price game. This is something that I feel, coming on the heels of Mario Kart World, which some critiqued for its content, I don't personally love the package offering here. And I'm going to say for me and sort of for the SwitchForce impressions, I think the races are something that could grow on me. And if that was like the package with a single player story mode and all that, and I know there is some of that in there, I could get behind this. But given that City Trial really let me down, I don't know that I want to invest at full price. I almost wish that this was like a free-to-play racer on the eShop or something that you got with your NSO expansion pack subscription. So if you didn't want to dive into City Trial, you could enjoy the races. And frankly, I don't know if the races are going to have long-lasting appeal and longevity beyond, like, hey, this is quirky and kind of neat. I don't have the same sense of speed that I have in Mario Kart, but I have the same sense of like fine-tuned control and really like, okay, you got to be specific with the turns. And it's interesting because to me, I felt like I had this specificity or this mastery that needed to be mastered in the races, and I didn't really feel it in City Trial because I feel like that mode is intended to be hectic and chaotic, and I feel like the controls coupled with that type of mode just betray each other. And to me, it was clunky, not in a, oh, you got to get better at this clunky. It was clunky in a way of like, yeah, this just isn't really that great of design. It feels like it's targeted towards a very hectic younger player base that's going to just enjoy bashing and smashing and collecting and seeing where they end up. That's not really my style right now, and I'm glad that Nintendo has such an array of game types lately, right? There was Pokemon Legends ZA, which is for a very Pokemon-type player, and within that sphere, it's very enjoyable. For a AAA story-based gamer, maybe it's not. Then there's Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which is like really doing it for me on the visual front, on the frame rate front, on the amount of enemies there. I don't know, I find the Zelda story to be a bit captivating, and I like how many enemies and just the satisfaction of grinding through 600, 700, 800 KOs. It does something for me. And then there's Kirby Air Riders at the end of the month, which is much more of a chaotic racer. It's got a party feel to it. It also does have that depth if you want it within the races, I believe. And then there's Metroid Prime 4, which is going to be your cinematic Halo style single player game. I know it's not Halo style, but I'm just saying it gave me those like early Halo vibes where you're like, okay, this is a galactic adventure. This is a big monumental thing with cutscenes and stories and bosses and everybody's go working together to defeat the big bad, and I really like that, and that's the game I'm most looking forward to. And I think it's nice that Switch 2 does have this on offer. I don't think it's a case where it's like, oh, this is sucky, even if you don't like 2 of the 4 or 3 of the 4, because third parties are bringing their heat as well. Like, you've got Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out in a couple of weeks, Overcooked 2 just stealth drop. Obviously, there's all the titles that have already released from third parties and indies. Quite a bit of stuff out there. Switch 2 has kind of built itself this very well-rounded package of titles, and so I don't think that pricking your finger on one is going to put you off of the system entirely. And while this cream of Nintendo crop is not my favorite, I would say that, hey, I really love DK Bonanza. I'm hoping I'll really love Metroid Prime 4. I think Mario Kart World is still super solid. I'm having more fun than I anticipated with Age of Imprisonment. And if Pokemon Legends ZA is kind of like put me in that nostalgic headspace, but I realize what it is outside of what it is, and Kirby Air Riders isn't really for me, then that's still doing very good. And hopefully for you, there is something that you enjoy. And if it's Kirby Air Riders, more power to you. Nintendo is kind of the only people in the world making games like this right now and dedicating like what I would say is like big resources and giving big designers the money and the time to make a game like this. On the other end of the same spectrum, the other side of the same coin, it's like this game is not given the money, the time, the development that we come to expect from a first party game, given like, hey, The Last of Us, given like, hey, Tears of the Kingdom, right? Like, that's not what Kirby Air Riders is, and not every game needs to be that. But there's this part of me that feels like, okay, Nintendo, you've got now this system that can do insane graphics, insane performance, and you have tons of money. So maybe you should build out your games in a way that they feel really fleshed out, they feel really full. And I'm not saying it has to be serious or it has to have like this emotional story or all this dialogue. Kirby is fine. Put Kirby in there, right? Put the silliest characters you've got, put the brightest colors, but maybe like make these games in a way to feel bigger, to feel 2025, and some people aren't going to like that, some people aren't going to want that, but that is something I'm missing from Nintendo, is like, I find myself wishing that they would go bigger with these games, and we know factually from data we've seen that budgets on these titles just do not compare to other games, and you could say, hey, Nintendo is being very cost effective, but when you see Pokemon Legends ZA struggling in the ways that it struggles in terms of a very barren and kind of non-interactive city, a single area that encapsulates the entire game, no VO for any of the cutscenes, despite mouth movements that definitely make you think they should talk. And then you see, oh, they spent 1/10 of what other companies are spending and 1/20 of what some other companies are spending. Maybe you feel like Nintendo could build these games a bit bigger and better. All that to say, Kirby Air Riders, I think the races are pretty cool. Did not enjoy City Trial, and I even did this. Look, I took City Trial, I stepped away from it, I came back, I said, I have to play it again just to see, and I just couldn't get into it. It's not really for me. While I love seeing Rick and Gooey and Kirby racing around on these different vehicles, I think City Trial is a chaotic mess in my opinion, and it feels to me like a Mario Party minigame extended too long and where skill isn't really the biggest factor, and that's more of what I would want out of my title. I wish Mario Kart had kind of given us a more extensive balloon battle mode, or like a balloon battle online circuit or seasons or something of that sort. That would have definitely been my cup of tea as opposed to this. I think it's remarkable what Sakurai has done from a performance and a presentation standpoint, and I do think the races, there's something there, but overall, Kirby Air Riders for me is kind of what I expected, which is probably a miss. But I'd love to know what you think, and hopefully I presented you with a good video to see if this is for you and what kind of parts that I like that you like, what kind of parts that I don't like that maybe you like, or vice versa, right? Things that I think are cool you might not like. You might be all about City Trial. Nintendo has provided a full circle of gaming for Switch 2, and I do think that despite not having the same number of titles maybe as the Switch 1, because the first party needed to support basically the entire system, we have this situation where third parties and indies have given us great games, Game of the Year contenders, and therefore first party just needed to really fill out the list. And I think they did that. I think they delivered some very unique games. While Kirby and Mario Kart are similar in that they're racers, definitely different games, definitely different focuses, and I'd say in many ways different audiences. And then DK Bonanza, Metroid Prime 4, Hyrule Warriors, those are all unique. The Switch 2 editions, Pokemon Legends ZA, all very different games, and I do like that. I think Nintendo really just kind of laid the blanket out and said, come to Switch 2, we'll scoop you up, and then we'll get ready for next year where there will hopefully be 3D Mario and much more. We kick off the year right away with Mario Tennis. That's all I have to say about Kirby Air Riders. Let me know your take in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, everybody, love you all lots. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. SwitchForce.